King Dedede is an interesting character in Brawl. He is considered to be a high tier, and there is only one reason for that. Dedede does have some other good tools, but his amazing grabs combined with his down throw is what makes him a potent character. His matchups literally come down to, can I do the chain grab? And if he can, it almost always shifts the matchup into his favour, sometimes rather drastically. If he can't, the matchup becomes a lot more difficult for him. Outside of the chain grab, however, Dedede does not have many great moves. He does have a few pretty good moves, but overall his moveset isn't that good. When you combine this with his awful mobility, it's pretty easy to see why he struggles so much against high tiers he cannot easily chain grab. With that being said though, his jab is on another level of awfulness. First of all, I want to look at the few positives this jab has. The jab deals a good amount of damage. The first hit does 6%, the second hit does 5%, and the rapid jab does 2% per hit. This is all pretty high for a jab. All three hits also have a good amount of range and are disjointed. That's everything positive I have to say. Do you want to know why this jab is bad? This is why.
Thanks for watching.
Okay, there's more to it than that. Let's start off by dissecting the first jab. Before we even land the move, there are already some glaring issues. First of all, this jab comes out on frame 12, or 0.2 seconds. Wow! This is just awful. Jabs are usually your character's fastest move, and their main purpose is to beat out your opponent's pressure. The faster your jab is, the easier it is to beat out your opponent. Most jabs in this game come out in between frames 2 and 6. So I think you can see why having a frame 12 jab is detrimental. There are so many instances where your opponent doesn't attack, and guess what? Dedede doesn't have the time to beat out with a jab when other characters can because it's so slow. Dedede does have faster options on the ground, luckily for him. Up tilt and down tilt both come out in frame 7 while his grab comes out in frame 6. In later games, the jab comes out in frame 10. Which is still incredibly slow, but I guess it's an improvement. So Dedede's jab comes out really slowly to the point where it lacks the main piece of utility a jab has. I'd be willing to let that slide if the jab had other things to make up for it. But the question is, does Dedede's jab have other good traits to make up for its awful speed?
No.
Let's continue on the topic of speed. The move has 37 total frames, which is absolutely ridiculous for a jab. Even when you consider it's frame 6 billion... Oh, I'm sorry. I meant frame 12 startup. If you whiff this move, you are most likely going to get punished. I'm getting a bit ahead of myself here, but the jab does not transition into the second hit until frame 20, and the second hit comes out in frame 11. This will be important later, so I'm mentioning it right now. On shield, the move is minus 23 if you only do the first hit. This leads to some pretty beefy punishes if the opponent is close enough to Dedede. Fortunately, you can space the move to be safe on shield against some characters, but even then, the opponent still has a significant advantage over you. The move's slow speed also means that it's not too difficult to power shield, which makes even bigger punishes possible. Besides, if you think the opponent is going to shield, you can just go for a grab. Grabs come out much faster and you aren't sacrificing much range either. Not to mention that grabs are much safer and much more rewarding, even if you can't chain grab the opponent. If you do the second jab, Dedede is at minus 15 before the second jab comes out. This still allows almost the entire cast to easily interrupt him if they are close enough. Even if you can't interrupt Dedede, you can still easily avoid the second jab and potentially punish him afterwards. When you combine this with the frame 2 trillion, frame 12 startup, this makes the move pretty easy to shield and punish. I just realised I've wrote an entire page on this move and I haven't even talked about what happens when you land the move. I better talk about that. Jab 1 has 3 different hitboxes. The furthest hitboxes send you horizontally, while the nearest hitbox launches you upwards. This is strange to say the least. Most jab 1s like this have the furthest hitboxes launch you upwards while the closer hitboxes launch you horizontally. You can see why that is when you look at Dedede's jab, which does the opposite. All the hitboxes have set knockback, so they always do the same amount of knockback regardless of the opponent's percent. When you hit the opponent, the move actually leaves King Dedede at a rather significant frame disadvantage. If you hit one of the further hitboxes, the move is anywhere from -10 to -14 on hit depending on your opponent's weight and how close they are. This means that the opponent has plenty of time to punish you, especially if they are pretty close. I could show you a bunch of guaranteed punishes like in the Mario video, but I think these punishes perfectly illustrate my point. Dedede can even get a guaranteed jab as a punish if you wanted to, flex on your opponent? Keep in mind that the move has set knockback, so the move doesn't become any safer as your percent increases. And the hitbox that is easiest to land is the one with the least hit stun, because of course it is. The closest hitbox does have a bit more knockback and it at least launches opponents upwards, making it a bit safer. This hitbox is still punishable on hit by multiple characters though, and it is ridiculously hard to land. You have to be practically inside the opponent in order to land the vertical launching hitbox. If the opponent is too far away, you'll get the horizontal launching hitbox. If they are too close, the jab will just flat out miss. It sure sounds fun when you miss a move with 25 frames of ending lag when the opponent is right next to you! There's nothing wrong with that at all! Seriously though, one of the only not terrible things about this move is the range. And the move literally punishes you for spacing it. Because of this, using the first jab on its own is a terrible idea in most scenarios and should not be done. As much as a bad reputation Samus's jab in Ultimate has, at the very least that move comes out quickly and is safe on hit if you only do the first jab. Okay, I've talked about using jab 1 on its own, but what about, doing jab 2 afterwards? Well, remember what I said earlier? The jab does not transition into the second hit until frame 20, and the second hit comes out in frame 11. That's where this becomes relevant. There is an 18 frame gap between the first hit and the second hit, which is ridiculously long for a jab. Even Samus's jab in Ultimate has a shorter gap than this. Okay, it's only 1 frame, but still. The first hit simply does not have enough hit stun to lead into the second hit. And before I continue any further, this has nothing to do with hit stun cancelling. This jab would still not function in any other Smash game after 64. If you land the first jab's further hitboxes, the move is anywhere from -2 to -6 on hit before the second hit comes out. This allows multiple characters to either punish Dedede before the second hit comes out, or at least trade with the second jab. Dedede himself can even do this. Even if you can't punish Dedede or you want to go for a bigger punish, you can just shield the second hit and punish afterwards. The second hit is -15 on shield, which is not bad for a jab, but the jab is still punishable if the opponent is close enough. Even if you are too far away to punish, you can still get closer to Dedede during the second jab's recovery. The first jab's near hit thankfully works better. It is only neutral to -2 on hit and it launches opponents upwards, so most characters can't avoid the second hit. I said most characters! The only problem is that, like I said before, this hitbox is incredibly difficult to land. And if the opponent shields it, or if it whiffs, the opponent is right next to you. With all that being said, you might be thinking, wow, Dedede's jab sounds really useless. The truth is, however, is that there is one useful thing this jab can do. Dedede's jab can jab lock. This might not sound special if you're coming from Ultimate, but in Brawl not every jab can jab lock. Before I continue, I want to quickly explain how locks work in this game for people who are unaware. There is no limit to how many times you can hit a flawed opponent and keep them in a locked state, and the opponent will automatically get up once they are no longer taking hits. As Dedede's jab hits rather low and it has set knockback, it is actually a rather reliable jab lock. The nearest hitbox can't jab lock, but you're never going to land that anyway. The damage and range of the move also makes it rather nice for jab locking. It is King Dedede's most reliable move to lock opponents from a missed tech, and because of that, jab actually has a use, albeit a situational one. Unfortunately, the move isn't even particularly great as a jab lock tool. This is because of the move's terrible frame data. Ah yes, we've gone back here. Because the jab is so slow, you only have a small window to land another jab, and if the opponent is far away, you don't have enough time to walk closer and jab them again. When the opponent gets up, you cannot even punish them with a forward smash because of how slow the jab is. Granted, if you could drag the opponent from one side of the stage to the other and then F-smash them, like every other character with a reliable jab lock, it would be kinda dumb since Dedede's F-smash is so strong in this game. Nobody told Snake this though, who also has an extremely slow F-smash. It's nice that Dedede has a jab lock since it gives his jab an actual use, but it's a shame that the move doesn't even shine as a jab lock. And there's my 3-page essay on why King Dedede's first jab alone is so bad. The TLDR is that it's incredibly slow, it almost never works, and while it has decent range, the move literally functions worse when you space it, incentivizing you to land it at close range where it just becomes riskier. The range isn't even that impressive. Falco's jab has a similar amount of range, and that jab comes out in frame 2! Not to mention that it has less ending lag, it leads into the second hit much quicker, it has great mix-up potential after you land it. There is a reason why it's arguably the best jab in the whole game. I haven't talked much about the second hit and haven't even mentioned the rapid jab, so I guess it's time to look at them. As I mentioned before, jab 2 is frame 11. I have already explained in detail why this sucks, but let's just look at jab 2 on its own for now. Jab 2 has 27 total frames. When considering its high startup lag, this is not too bad. The second hit launches opponents vertically and its knockback scales quite nicely. The move is minus on hit at 0%, but at the very least, it launches opponents upwards, which makes it impossible for some characters to punish. At higher percents, Dedede gets guaranteed follow-ups out of the move, with down tail and grab being particularly nice follow-ups. These especially work well against fast fallers. As I mentioned before, the move is minus 15 on shield, which, especially considering its range, is not bad at all. The biggest problem jab 2 has is that it's attached to such a poor jab 1. If it was paired with a better jab 1, or if it was Dedede's only jab, this would actually be a nice move. Since jab 1 is so awful, however, you almost never get the chance to even land this move. It's not a terrible move on paper, but it is held back by the first jab being so bad. As for the rapid jab, it is abysmal and should never be used.
Thanks for watching.
I really don't feel like I need to explain why rapid jab is so bad, but I'm going to anyway. In all fairness, pretty much every rapid jab in Brawl sucks, but Dedede's is on another level of terribleness. First of all, you have to wait forever before you can even start the rapid jab. It literally takes more time to go from jab 1 to the rapid jab than it does to F-smash with Dedede. This is a frame 42 F smash for the record, and it's hitting after frame 42. You can't even transition into the rapid jab until frame 26 of your second jab. As the rapid jab is frame 7, this means that the rapid jab comes out 5 frames later than just finishing the second jab on its own. This makes the second jab more punishable and hit at lower percents, preventing the rapid jab from being guaranteed until higher percents. The rapid jab even flat out misses if you land jab 2 from max distance, and you really do not want that to happen. Jab 2 becomes minus 19 on shield if you do the rapid jab, allowing for a bunch more punishes that would not work if you did jab 2 on its own. If that's still not good enough for you, you can roll behind Dedede and get a huge punish. You might need to SDI depending on spacing and character, but you still get a lot of time to punish regardless. You can also jump, which can also lead to some big punishes with some characters. This is literally a true punish. And trust me, other rapid jabs do not have this problem. This is assuming that after shielding you are close enough to get hit by the rapid jab, which you sometimes aren't. Warlock Punch does only work on Power Shield, but the fact that Warlock Punch is guaranteed at all is mind-boggling. Let's say that you actually land the rapid jab through some divine miracle. The rapid jab takes a really long time to complete, as you saw previously, so it gives your opponent a lot of time to avoid and punish it. The move has 12 frames of ending lag once the rapid jab ends, which is more than most rapid jabs. It also doesn't even have a win box during its ending, unlike most other rapid jabs. All the hitbox to deliberately launch the opponent away from Dedede, which is just dumb. Other rapid jabs at least somewhat try to keep you in them. But not Dedede's! Oh no! Dedede's rapid jab is special! I haven't even mentioned the best part about the rapid jab. It's really easy to SDI out of! Even if you land jab 2 and it leads into rapid jab, you have all the time in the world to SDI in reaction, minimalising the amount of damage you take. It can throw shielding opponents off guard, as if you let go of shield, it will hit you. There's only one reason why you would be shielding realistically though. If you actually get hit by the second jab. Otherwise, why would you be shielding the rapid jab in the first place? Even if the second hit hits you, it's often better to just take the hit and SDI out of the rapid jab rather than shield it. You're only going to take 4% at the most, so just take the hit. The only thing this rapid jab somewhat has going for it is its range, but it doesn't matter when you take everything else into account. The range itself isn't even that good. It has less range than jab 2, and Dedede sticks his arm out when using it, which makes him more vulnerable. Never use it unless you want to use it as a taunt. But even then, it hails in comparison to Dedede's amazing crouch. If you absolutely have to do multiple jabs, just do jab 2 without the rapid jab. Jab 2 on its own is literally safer than doing the rapid jab, and it is more rewarding. Or you could just not jab at all and go for something else instead. So King Dedede's jab is undoubtedly awful. The first hit is extremely slow, unsafe, and it doesn't even lead into the second hit in almost all cases. The second hit is ruined by the fact that you can't lead into it with the first hit, and the less said about the rapid jab, the better. With all that being said though, how bad is this move? It's absolutely awful, but it isn't the worst move in the game. It at the very least has a definitive use in Dedede's kit, as situational as that use may be. I would probably still call this move one of the worst moves in the game myself. It's just interesting how the devs managed to make a jab that is this unbelievably bad.
Thanks for watching.
Guys.